Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As we await the start of qualifying, now is as good a time as any to give an introduction. My name is Chad Dillon. Thank you for joining us on yet again another Friday evening for the Caribbean Touring Car Challenge. This week is round 3 of the Japan Tour, and we are at the Sugo Sportsland track. 11 corners, 3.7 kilometers, and quite a bit of elevation change, but it is a rather fast track in most places, so certainly we will be getting some high speed action as we are about to start the qualifying session, and drivers are already making their way on to the circuit for the qualifying session to start. First out the pits is Mr. Roger Robinson, a driver that is partially responsible for the series coming to you here this evening, as he has helped in the development of both these cars and in recruiting some of these drivers to this competition. We have a 12 car grid thus far. I'm not sure if we will be joined by a few others. Some of them fairly new, some of them more regular candidates, and the drivers that are quite frequent to the JSRA. I do see more drivers joining as we progress through this qualifying session. So there's 14 minutes of qualifying to go, and that will then lead us into a 40-minute race. And so we will definitely be seeing what these drivers can offer us around this circuit, which again, this is one of those circuits that is not very technical by nature. I see a bit of lots of flat out sections, and maybe the real technical part of this track comes in the early stages of sector 1, turns 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It is an 11 turn track total, if I did not mention, but yes, so from turn 2 to about turn 7 is where most of the track is a little bit technical, where you have to position your car very precisely in order to be in the best possible position for exit speeds and maximum attack. Two major overtaking zones down the 0.7 kilometer start finish straight and the back straight between turns 7 and 8. So certainly the drivers have two opportunities to get the job done over the course of any one lap. And the first laps are not representative, as those are the out laps for some of these drivers. Roger Robinson will be the first driver to set a representative lap time by the time he gets done with this lap, barring any track limits violations. So we will watch for what the times are looking like. The fast times we have seen so far this week are along the low 131s, and I think high 130s have been done prior, so we will certainly keep abreast of what the drivers are doing throughout this quali session. So far, Roger Robinson was fastest in both sectors 1 and 2. That has since been offset by Nathan Bryan taking the fastest sector 2 so far, as Roger Robinson does a 131.7. and we do apologize for the brief interruption there, folks. But yes, these drivers are still trying to put down the fastest possible laps. Roger Robinson was beaten by Jaden Harrison, but is currently trying to reclaim that top spot, fastest in sectors 1 and 2 as he approaches the line and does retake the top spot, but not by much. So there's still a little bit of time out there to be found from some of these drivers. I see Iman Rayan there in the 3rd spot, also in the high 131s at the moment. So we will look for those times to come down a little more as we progress through this session. And Roger Robinson happy with his lap, heading back to the pits. Jaden Harrison, who is less than a 10th behind, trying to find some pace, but this lap not looking very handy for Jaden Harrison at the moment. Looking up and down the field, I do not see any blistering lap time, so we'll certainly keep an eye on the lap timing sheets to see where times are being matched. But at the moment, Roger Robinson sits in P1 provisional pole away from Jaden Harrison, who is still looking for the possibility of finding some time out there on the circuit at the moment. And it looks like we have 2 drivers ahead of Jaden here jockeying for position to get on their flying laps. The first one gets out of his way, and we will see if the second one does the same. That is the top 3 at the moment. Roger Robinson and Iman Rayan around Jaden Harrison, who is on a flying lap. So there I say there might be a little bit of desire there to offset the lap some. I'm sure these drivers are not looking to do so, but it doesn't matter as Jaden Harrison goes quickest of anyone in sector 1 so far by less than a 10th, but he is still up. So if he can keep this lap together, he is on pace thus far through one sector to snatch that provisional pole away from Roger Robinson with 8 minutes to go in this quali session as Kurt Moss slots himself in 5th position. Jaden Harrison a little down in sector 2, has lost some time overall, but it is a personal best, so maybe there is still some hope here for Jaden Harrison to gain on this lap with a few corners to go. He actually just rounds the final corner and is blasting down the 0.7 kilometers straight to the line, and it's not enough. He missed out by a 10th and change there when all was said and done, but I am not sure if he's going again immediately. No, as he looks to, well, no, that is him positioning his car in the very aggressive sector 2, trying to get himself in position there for a better run through that section of the racetrack. And as he is wrapping up sector 1 there now, heading through turn 6-7 complex, this lap does not look very tidy. Both drivers there running very wide. I say it doesn't look very tidy, but that lap time I'm not sure is very representative of what he actually did in that sector. However, we are back on board with our provisional pole sitter at the moment, Roger Robinson, who is heading through the turns 9 and 10, or maybe heading to start a flying lap. I'm not sure if he's currently on a flying lap. Those times do not look like representative times for him, as they are slowest in both, as they're his slowest times in both sectors 1 and 2 so far. So I imagine he'll be going again just now to try and get another flying lap in, maybe create a little bit more distance between himself and Jaden Harrison. With 6 minutes to go in this quali session, Iman Rayan looks to have improved slightly, puts himself within a 10th and a half of pole, but still some work to do with Nathan Bryan and Kurt Moss rounding out the top 5 at the moment. Moss has not looked very comfortable in these cars thus far. You're used to a very domineering Kurt Moss who sits at the top of the timing sheets and leads from the front most of the time. So Kurt Moss having to do some work here in this series to try and keep up with the guys who know these cars maybe a little bit better than he does and are more accustomed to driving in the slower brand of cars, as these cars are not what I assume Kurt Moss himself would be used to in terms of overall driving prowess. These cars don't necessarily have the kind of handling you would expect, nor do they have the kind of power you would expect from a brand of racing cars, as Roger Robinson there runs wide in that section of track. Kurt Moss seems to be pulling over to allow a driver to go by, and that was Iman Rayan, who sits in third position. He was allowing to get by him. Kurt Moss obviously on an outlap here. Iman might have been on a flyer, so getting out of his way for him to get on with his lap. But these times not looking much better for Rayan either, so there's still some work to do for these drivers if they are to improve any at all in the next 4.5 minutes. So we will keep an eye on what is happening up and down the field, if there's any improvement to come from these drivers. Kurt Moss here has found some pace through Sector 1, a little bit down in Sector 2, but this could put Moss on pace to trouble the current top 3 if he can keep it clean through this, the final corner, as he gets ready to blast down the start-finish straight. Has Kurt Moss done enough to put himself in contention for the top spot here? Maybe a little bit harassed by my statements earlier. Trying to improve, but cannot find the time in Sector 3 and is still almost 5/10 down. He does move up to 4th position as Nathan Bryan has exited, it seems, so maybe not. Yeah, he is still ahead of Nathan Bryan, who now sits in the 5th spot ahead of Oswin Wilson. And Kurt Moss there getting up on one of those curbs. This track does look to have very aggressive curbs that will give these drivers some amount of issues throughout this race if they are not careful. And whilst we were on board with Kurt Moss there, Iman Rayan has taken the top spot on provisional pole at the moment. Roger Robinson trying to offset that, has improved in Sector 1 and does manage to take the top spot back from Iman Rayan by 1/10.5, and we're now in the low 131s, which is where we expect the pole time to be. Jaden Harrison a further 3/10 back. Does he have any more in the tank on an outlap at the moment? So when he gets back to start finish, we will see if he has anything left in the tank to offer for the possibility of getting on pole position here this evening. And few drivers now in the pits, and those drivers will not be going again, as there is but a minute and just about a minute left in the quali session. So unless these drivers on track are the only drivers now capable of completing one last flying lap to try and take pole position away from Roger Robinson, who sits comfortably at the top. Jaden Harrison through 2 sectors, a little bit down on the provisional pole time, as he lost a 10th in Sector 1 and has not done enough in Sector 2 to improve upon that 10th. So we will see if coming out of the final corner, heading to the line. Jaden Harrison has done enough to improve on his position. He does improve, but not to the top spot. He slots himself into second position with 1,000th of a second between himself and Iman Ryan, who is in the pits and will start third, barring anybody doing anything more. Kurt Moss on a flyer at the moment, just about to complete sector 1. We will observe to see if he has any more, and he gets very unsettled off of that curb coming out of sector 1. And I am not sure if this lap will count, as I am not seeing him. No, that is the fastest sector 1 of anybody. My apologies. I thought sector 1 would have been done before he got to that point, but as he has completed sector 1, he is leading the, well, he has done enough in sector 1. He needs to continue that trend through the next 2 sectors, as he is rounding out sector 2 in a moment's time and is down 3/10 in sector 2, so not looking too great, but he can maybe improve to ahead of Oswin Wilson, or maybe even trouble Iman Ryan, depending on how good a drive he gets out of the final corner. So on his way down the start finish straight now, I assume there is improvement on the card. Does he do enough? He does improve, but it is not enough to trouble the top 4, and he sits in 5th position at the moment, and that is where he will start. So our grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. Roger Robinson holding on to that pole position by almost 2/10 of a second to Jaden Harrison, and Jaden Harrison just barely edging out Iman Ryan for that second spot on the front row by 1,000th of a second, and that is rather small margins between the 2 other podium sitting drivers at the moment. Oswin Wilson will start 4th ahead of Kurt Moss and Nathan Bryan on the 3rd row. Pipewell and Julia Brown will start on the next row. And going down the order, Roger Keller, Kimani Eastman, Juan Velasco, Eric Ferraz, and Nicholas Donald round out the remainder of our grid. And as we get ready to go racing in a moment's time, these drivers will be lining up on the grid for us to get some racing action going in a moment. This is just the cool down time between sessions as we are preparing to go racing in a moment's time. So ladies and gentlemen, the cars are lined up on the grid, and as we await the lights for us to get going, Roger Robinson once again on pole ahead of Jaden Harrison alongside him on the front row. We know Jaden Harrison can be the aggressor at the start of a race, so look for a possibility of move into turn 1 if Jaden gets a better launch off the line. And we have the 6 lights, and as they go out in a moment, we have gone racing, and Roger Robinson looks to have gotten the better getaway of the 2 drivers on the front row, and Jaden Harrison is under pressure immediately but comes across to take the racing line through turn 1. Iman Ryan lost position there to Oswin Wilson, and Nathan Bryan. Kurt Moss all the way down the order. Not sure what happened to him there. Maybe he did not get the start that he was hoping for, or some contact was made. But Roger Keller and Julia Brown coming together here in the early stages of the race, in the fight for P7 at the moment. Pipewell getting ahead of both of them coming off of the line, and right there are the two drivers, Julia Brown and Roger Keller, right behind each other, nose to tail, and there will be looking. The slipstream seems to be working around this track as we see drivers trying to break the toe as we are all heading towards turn 8 at the moment, and there is some issues occurring at the moment. Pipewell has fallen right down the order. It looks like he had a spin and there was some contact with Nathan Bryan, who fell right down the order with him. So Kurt Moss gifted a few positions there on his attempt to charge back through the field. But at the front three, Jaden Harrison and Iman Rayan is racing Oswin Wilson at the moment for that third podium position. Iman Rayan inching ahead going into the braking zone, and with the better line is able to claim that position back. So back to where he started for Iman Rayan in third position, and now he needs to start a charge to catch up to the front two, but they're not very far up the road either way. So we will be seeing a battle as Jaden Harrison not giving Roger Robinson the chance to get away from him there, but Oswin Wilson also not giving Iman Rayan much space here, as the two drivers still nose to tail going through the last of sector 1 there, heading down the straight to turn 8, as we will dub it, as Kurt Moss gains another position and moves up to P9, and just ahead of him is a train of cars that he will have to battle through in order to get back into any form of contention to his previous position. Kurt Moss, remember, started 5th place and fell down the order at the start of the race due to some incident that may have taken place. But he is trying his best at the moment to salvage what can be salvaged from this race here in round 3 of this 4-round series, and he's trying to go around the outside there but runs a little too wide, and once you dip your wheels into the grass, ladies and gentlemen, you lose all of that grip, and away he went. Now he has fallen back down into 10th place and has more work to do. And I do apologize, I may have stated at the start of this that it was a 40-minute race, but it would appear that we have gone back to the original format of 2 races, 20 minutes apiece. And the grid should be reversed within the top 10 at the start of the next race. So Kurt Moss here has some work to do to get back into contention with the rest of the field. All the while, Roger Robinson is eking out an advantage there over Jaden Harrison. The gap 1.2 seconds. Iman Rayan a further second behind Jaden Harrison, with Oswin Wilson still holding on to Iman Rayan in the hopes of getting back into that podium position here in this race. Julia Brown has found herself in 5th position, having started down in P9, I believe, ahead of Roger Keller, and Roger Keller is still looking to make the charge. Nicholas Donald and Kimani Eastman, they're having a battle for 8th place, and Kimani Eastman there on the inside. A little bit of contact between the two, and Kimani there making some corrections to keep the car going in the right direction, but that sees Nick Donald fall down the order again. With that contact, maybe lost a bit of downforce in the car and finds himself running wide. We're getting a bit of fast and furious action here, trying to keep up, ladies and gentlemen, to bring you all of the action as it is coming our way. Oswin Wilson still hot on the trail of Iman Rayan, not letting him get too far ahead. This is where it's no longer about how fast you are, but how consistent you can be, because if you can keep your lap times within a specific delta, then you are much more likely to stay in contention in this race than having one blistering lap followed by slower lap times. But Jaden Harrison all the while is closing back in on Roger Robinson. Jaden Harrison there having done a brilliant lap the last time around to try and close back that gap to Roger Robinson, and it actually might have been on this lap that Roger Robinson has made a mistake to give Jaden Harrison the chance to come back at him, because the lap before Roger Robinson was 2/10 quicker than Jaden. So maybe a mistake here on this lap would have given Jaden the chance to get back into this fight, but already Roger Robinson gaining back any advantage lost as we get back onto start finish straight here, and the gap is back over a second. So Roger Robinson does seem to have the pace advantage here in race trim, and is using that to the best of his abilities to try and put some distance between himself and Jaden Harrison. The gap now about a second, and it seems that similar thing is happening behind, with Oswin Wilson falling away a little bit from Iman Rayan, and Iman might be sitting comfortably in that P3 spot in a few laps time if he continues to just ease the gap away between himself and Oswin Wilson. We will keep an eye on that, ladies and gentlemen. But Kimani Eastman at the moment is taking the fight to Eric Ferraz, and these two drivers are going at it here as Kimani Eastman is right on the rear wing of the driver ahead, and a small mistake there has given that advantage back and given Kurt Moss actually that position away from Kimani Eastman, and the two are actually still side by side going down the straight, but Kurt Moss will have the inside line for the next corner and squeezes Kimani Eastman out a little bit there to take that position away. But these three drivers very close together here as we are heading into sector 3. No room there given between any of these drivers trying to move their way up the order, and Kurt Moss will be looking to take the fight to Ferraz immediately. Ferraz there not gaining too much advantage in the little squabble that took place between Kimani and Kurt. And Kurt might be trying to use a slipstream here down the start finish straight to make a move. Has a small look, giving Ferraz something to think about, but not enough there, and there is more fighting to come between these three drivers as we continue through sector 1. And Kurt Moss will be looking to move his way past Ferraz, and then has a 6-second gap to make up to Roger Keller ahead if he wants to get back into contention. But he is having a look there. Side by side they were going through the start of sector 3, and still nothing giving between these two drivers, and we're waiting to see if there is any more to offer from these two drivers. You can see our cam there showing you the rear wing of Ferraz as he is fighting with Kurt Moss, and he gets a little bit aggressive on the curbs there and cuts back across, covering off Kurt Moss, and Moss there flashing his lights to say that was naughty. But still this fight rages on with Kurt Moss seated firmly in the rear view mirror of Ferraz, and it looks like Moss has a better drive out of the final corner, maybe side by side at the moment between these two drivers. Not seeing any position gained. Kurt Moss there with the inside line takes the position through turn 1 and has gotten ahead of Ferraz there, and will now try to make his way back. 8 seconds, he lost some time there in that fight, so 8 seconds to close the gap back to Roger Keller, who is still right there with Miss Julia Brown, and so far nothing giving between these two drivers. They have been nose to tail all the way through the first few laps here of this race. We are 6 laps in, and Roger Keller has managed to stay right with Julia Brown, who runs in 5th position. Kurt Moss will have some work to do to close that gap down. We will check back in on his progress a little bit later on, but for right now, Oswin Wilson has once again closed right up to Iman Rayan, and we will see if he can get anything going in terms of an attack on Rayan in the hopes of getting back into that podium spot. Nothing to choose between the two drivers the last time around the track, so we will continue to watch these two going at it. Quite heated here. There are a few drivers that are sitting right in the slipstream, trying to find a way to make a move on the driver ahead, but again, you have to be mark perfect on the exit to the straights, as these two drivers are now heading onto the back straight, and right there with Iman Rayan is Mr. Oswin Wilson, and is gonna look to make that move. No, he is too far back to make the move going into turn 8, and still he runs very wide there. What just happened? And that is Oswin Wilson DNFing, and it seems that there might have been a disconnection there for Oswin Wilson in that moment. That's rather unfortunate there for that driver at the moment that it took place. We still have 2 battles ongoing, ladies and gentlemen, whilst Roger Robinson sits almost 2 seconds clear of Jaden Harrison in 2nd position. The battle for 4th raging on between Julia Brown and Roger Keller, these 2 drivers not giving much space, and they're so similarly paced over 1 lap, it seems, as their times are almost matching each other lap in and lap out. Maybe Roger Keller not in the right positions. Ooh, as he slides there through turn 5, it looks like. That was a massive slide there through turn 2, my apologies, that he had that slide through. And hasn't lost very much, but he finds himself about a second adrift of Julia Brown following that slide, as we are watching on board here with Himani Eastman chasing down Eric Ferraz for the 7th position. These 2 drivers have also been very similarly paced over 1 lap. Eastman looks to have gotten a very good drive out of that corner and is having a look down the inside as they head towards turn 8, but he will not be close enough when he comes back across the racing line to try and maybe position himself through the final corner, which is about 2 corners away, to maybe make a run down the start finish straight. So if he is on it coming out of that turn 10, they're heading into turn 11 and he is glued to the back of Eric Ferraz, and they are heading down the start finish straight, and this is where we will see the use of the slipstream. Kimani Eastman ducks into the draft of Eric Ferraz, and the two are neck and neck heading down the straight, and pulls out of the slipstream to take the inside line. And as we head into the braking zone, using that inside line to make that move, but Ferraz there going wide, trying to keep his nose in, and keeps a foot in some way, somehow, and holds on to that position. Cruze there, very aggressive through that turn 1, turn 2 section there, not giving Kimani Eastman the move that easily. And all of this is playing pipe well back into the equation. Eastman, they're trying on the outside this time around, but still nothing to give there. And again, well now also in this fight, so it is a 3-way fight for 7th position here on the grid. Ferraz holding on for dear life as Eastman continues to apply the pressure, and Kimani's a little further back as we come out of the final corner this time around, so not as close to get the correct slipstream going down to turn 1, but well looks a little bit closer to Eastman and is gonna try the move as we head to turn 1. So what was attack will turn into defense very shortly for Kimani Eastman, but well thinking better of it and breaks a little bit earlier to keep himself in that fight, maybe thinking that he would not have been able to make that move stick through that section. So well thinking better of it, but is still in the fight for P7 that is raging on between Eric Ferraz and Kimani Eastman. Eastman still trying to get that position away from Ferraz, as Ferraz runs wide there, inviting Eastman into the fight, but he is holding on through. That was turn 7 there, it seems. And these two drivers still going at it, Eastman and Ferraz, as we are on. Well, El Presidente is doing some camera magic here, or trying to do some camera magic at the moment. And we are watching this battle continue on between these two drivers as we are rounding the final corner. Eastman still not looking close enough to make the move the way he did the lap before, but Well is right there with him, and actually all 3 drivers are not separated by very much, and this could be an attempt here from either Eastman or Well having not the right line for that. Eastman taking the most extreme inside line there to try and whether defend or try and attack Ferraz, but once again we have to wait another go around to see if this fight will continue. Ferraz they're running a little bit wide, and not quite, I don't know, Ferraz seems to be running wide, inviting Kimani in, but either Kimani is not being aggressive enough or just kind of worried about the possibility of contact with Ferraz, so is thinking better of the move at that point in time. So we're watching the picture-in-picture with Ferraz in front, and at that time it was Well behind, but these three drivers not giving much between each other, and I am just looking up and down the field to see where the other fights are. Roger Keller has once again closed to Julia Brown, but still not much separating those two drivers their last laps. Well, Roger Keller did a 1:32.9 the last time around, which was almost a second quicker than Julia Brown, but his next lap was a 10th slower. Eastman still not close enough to make that move through turn one, and I am wondering if he is starting to get a little bit desperate in that car, because this, ladies and gentlemen, should be the penultimate lap. When Jaden Harrison crosses the line, we should be on, sorry, when Roger Robinson crosses the line, we should be on the final lap. And I think this is now Eastman's last chance to get that move done, and he is looking for every possible opportunity to make that move. As we rounded turn 7, we're on the way down to turn 8 now. Eastman running out of time to make that stick, as Roger Robinson and Jaden Harrison have crossed the line to take the checkered flag. Iman Ryan comes home to take third, but this fight will go to the line, and there is not much time left for any of these drivers to make a move. Ferraz holding on to 7th position for dear life. Eastman trying to get ahead, maybe on the run down to the line. Still not close enough, I don't think, to make that impression. And he will be right with him by the time they get to the line, but just not enough in it. He definitely gave it his all trying to get that move done there, Kimani Eastman. But just Ferraz putting on a brilliant display of defense and holds on to 7th place ahead of Eastman, well coming across the line to take 9th. Nick Donald rounding the final corner there now to take that 10th position, with Velasco also starting the last straight to be the final finisher of the race. And again, ladies and gentlemen, there is more racing action to come, as the next race will begin momentarily, with the top 10 being reversed. So Nick Donald will start from P1 alongside Eastman and Ferraz the second row, Moss and Keller on the third row, Brown and Ryan, followed by Robinson and Harrison. So we certainly will get more action in the second race with that reversed order, because the quicker drivers will have work to do in order to get ahead of their competition to get back into the top spot. So stay tuned for race number 2 that will be coming up in a moment's time. So we're lining up for race number 2, ladies and gentlemen, and we will get going again in a moment's time with the top 10 reversed. Roger Robinson, who won, is in 10th position, and Nick Donald, who came 10, is in 1st position. So every time we've done this so far, there has been carnage at turn 1. I am keeping my fingers crossed that these drivers all make it out of turn 1 alive, and we get some good racing action with the drivers that are trying to move up the order, given that they are quicker than the drivers ahead. So we are awaiting the lights to go racing in a moment's time, and the lights are up. They have gone out, and we are away. Nick Donald gets away looking like he has maintained first position ever so nicely. And we are having small issues here. The field looks to have come through turn 1 cleanly enough. So Roger Keller and Julia Brown swapping positions there, and that would be crucial for his race. Ooh, and there's some heavy contact there between, that looks like Well and Moss having some contact at the moment. And Well has stayed ahead of Kurt Moss there, having made that contact, as we are watching the trail cam from Nick Donald's car, who has been, or from Wells' car, my apologies, ahead of Kurt Moss. And Moss there looking very aggressive early on, trying to get ahead of Well. And Kurt Moss should have started a lot lower down. How did he find himself up in P3 that early on? Moss doing a little bit of Moss magic here in the second race, maybe trying to make up for the torrid start he had in the first race, having fallen from P4 down to P10. So if Kurt Moss manages to clear these two drivers, maybe he can scamper off before the faster drivers, the Jaden Harrisons, Roger Robinson and Iman Rayans, get any closer, whilst they're trying to make the overtakes. Again, very, very narrow overtaking windows here, as all three of these drivers at the front here looking to get very racy very early on, and Kurt Moss there looking to put a move down the inside of Nick Donald and gets that move. Well, we thought he got that move done, but there was some contact made, it seems, and Kurt Moss finds himself down in P9. And once again, it's just not looking good for Kurt at the start of these races. Finds himself falling down the order once more, but Nick Donald runs in third. Roger Keller has found himself up in second position, and Roger Robinson and Jaden Harrison moving through the field very quickly, and there is some contact there, it looks like, between Nick and Roger, but Roger Robinson getting ahead of Nicholas Donald, it seems. And Jaden Harrison next on the list to try and make the move on Nicholas Donald here. Jaden Harrison would not want to allow Roger Robinson to get too far ahead, because he is the only driver that has successfully mounted any kind of challenge to Roger's dominance here today. And it looks like he is about to get the move done on Nicholas Donald, the two side by side heading down the straight, but Iman Ryan also looking like he wants to poke a nose in, but thinks better of it, and the two drivers get Nick Donald almost at the same time. Not sure if Nick kind of chose his battles there and decided against being a part of that fight. The next person to catch him might be Julia Brown, so we will see if she has the pace to take the fight to Nicholas Donald as well. In the interim, Roger Robinson sitting about 3/10 behind Roger Keller. That's now 5/10 behind Roger Keller. And as they are rounding turn 7 on the run down to turn 8, Roger Keller and Pipewell not separated by much. And we do apologize, folks. It seems that it is in the nature of this track, because of all of the trees that line the edges of the track. It is hard to get a good view of the cars when they get to certain points around the circuit, and it is causing our camera crew some issues here this evening. But the top three not separated by much, and we will continue to observe the fight between them, and Jaden Harrison also in the equation, so we will definitely see who uses who to their advantage in this fight between the top four, and it's even the top five because Ryan is right there as well. So all five drivers not separated by much. They're in what would look like a DRS train in Formula 1, but certainly no DRS here for these cars around this track. The slipstream, however, does gain you a little bit of an advantage, so let's think of that as our DRS here this evening. Roger Keller right there with Well, and is looking to try and find somewhere to make that move, and he could get the chance to do so as they round turn 6 and 7. We'll see if he gets the proper exit. It looks like he may have lost a little bit there on the exit and is weaving back and forth to keep Roger Robinson at bay, and that is a lot of movement there from Roger Keller. Certainly the stewards will be wondering what's going on there, and will be wanting to have a stern talking to with Roger Keller, and maybe even more than that, depending on what their findings are. But that was certainly far too much movement down that straight for that to be considered legal defense. But these five cars really are giving us quite the show here in the second race, with 14 minutes to go essentially, and that seems like Roger Keller is giving Roger Robinson that position, maybe thinking better of the fight, having made that maneuver the last time around, and Roger Robinson was ahead but brakes earlier than Roger Keller, and there's some contact there between the two of them, and there's lots more contact to follow, and that was a lot of carnage through one corner, and all the while that gifts Jaden Harrison P2 for him now to make the hunt on Well. Iman emerges from that scrap, dare I say, in fourth position behind Roger Keller, and I'm not sure who was at fault there, so the stewards will certainly need to have a look at that to determine what went wrong there. But I don't know if the lunge there from Roger trying to go deep into the corner, outbraking Roger Robinson, as well as Roger not leaving enough room. All speculation at the moment, but through all of this, Kurt Moss has found himself back in 5th position, which is a great improvement to where he was previously, given he had tumbled all the way down to about P10. We are back on board though with Jaden Harrison, who is on the charge trying to get Well, and he was almost, well, he was 5/10 quicker on the last lap, and we will see how much quicker he can be this time around. But we know Jaden is not the most patient man, so certainly we will see where he chooses to try and make this move, as it is almost inevitable at this point given the pace difference between these two drivers. I'd like to hope he waits until about turn 7. That would be the most ideal place to do so. So we will see what he does here as they go through the 6-7 complex, and he is right with Well as they exit turn 7, and on the run down to turn 8 we will see if we can get an idea. And the battle behind Ryan and Keller also taking place. Ryan looking to take the outside line. Whoa, and that was Jaden Harrison going off. Maybe missing his breaking point there in turn 8. My goodness, that was meme-worthy, dare I say. To see that maneuver not working out for Jaden Harrison in that moment. So, ladies and gentlemen, with 9.5 minutes to go, Roger Keller sits in second position, but Keller might be facing some serious inquiries in the stewards room following this race, with the defense he has been offering so far. And he still runs in P2, but this has given well the chance to run away. He's now 5 seconds clear of the drivers behind, and there is still more fighting to come as Kurt Moss has now also arrived on the scene to take the fight to the drivers ahead. Ryan will be looking to make that move on Roger Keller. I don't think he is quite close enough at the moment to make the move into turn 1, so we will certainly be on the lookout for what is coming next with this battle. And Keller almost refusing to give up that second position with how aggressively he is defending, and they are closing back to well ahead. However, with the fighting that may ensue, it will give well the chance to run away again. Keller there looking squirmy on the exit, and does that give Ryan the chance to try and make a move here? Keller middling the track, but is swerving back and forth, and that is more than one move once again through that corner, and that is certainly going to not earn him favor with the stewards when all is said and done. We will continue to ride on board with this battle as Ryan there maybe got the better exit from the final corner and is right with Roger Keller coming out of that corner, and is gonna look to make the move before we get to turn 1, but as he is no longer in the slipstream, the advantage goes away, and Moss is looking to put himself into the equation and dives down the inside of 1, make it 2. Through goes Kurt Moss, and Keller there making some serious contact on the exit, and that was certainly not how that was to have gone. Kurt Moss will be fuming and immediately goes back to the pits, as does Roger Keller. And that was a rather unfortunate way to see that battle come to an end. I'm not sure what's been going on with Roger here in this race, but that the defense that he was putting on certainly was not what you expect to see from drivers at this level. So that will not earn him any favors in the races to come. Roger Robinson now finds himself up in third, right there with Iman Ryan. These two drivers know each other very well, dare I say, as they have been locked in battle before, and Roger Robinson with a slight pace advantage over Iman Ryan. In the last lap, he was actually a second quicker on the last lap We will see what the pace difference is this time around. Maybe with Ryan having been involved in that incident. Actually, Ryan was a 10th quicker over that lap. So, yeah, again, not much to separate between them in terms of pace, and we have about 5.5 minutes to go. So we will see what comes of this fight. Looking up and down the order, Oswin Wilson and Kimani Eastman once again locked in a battle. Actually, this is a three-way battle for 4th position behind Julia Brown. Wilson right there with Eastman, who is right there with Brown, and it seems that Julia Brown is playing bottleneck at the moment to this gaggle of cars, but Oswin Wilson may be thinking, I'm not going to wait on Eastman to get this done. I want to be the one to have a crack at that P4, and he is looking left, looking right, trying to figure out if he's going to make the dive. And no, well, Eastman tried to outbrake him there and outbrakes himself, and that gives Oswin Wilson the 5th position, and he is now free to track down Julia Brown, and we will see if he has better luck at trying to get by Julia here than her last attacker, who was very unsuccessful in the previous race. So as they exit the final corner, there's about half a second between them, and Eastman has managed to keep himself in this fight. Actually, he is not too far adrift of the pair ahead, and if they start fighting, it will certainly give him another opportunity to get back into this, but he is not looking quite composed at the moment. Kimani Eastman looking like he is outbreaking himself, maybe trying to find a little bit of pace here in the latter half of this race. With 3.5 minutes to go, it's almost becoming desperation time for these drivers to try and make the move to gain position. Rosé Robinson ahead is right with Iman Rayan, and maybe he is thinking the same thing I am, which is it's now or never, because with not much time to go, and whilst they're closing in on well ahead, there will certainly be at best 1 lap to try and attack for the lead of this race if these two don't lose too much time engaged in battle. So we will observe, as it looks like Wilson and Brown there came side by side, but Wilson having to back out of it for some odd reason. But Roger Robinson still right with Iman Rayan, and there's about half a second between the two, and that exit looked less than ideal. He is closing a little, but won't be close enough by the time they get to turn 1, and there's about 2.5, maybe, okay, so 3 laps of racing action left, 2 laps plus 1 lap. So we will see if there is anything to be done by the time we get to the end of this race. They are now under a second behind Well ahead, and Well has done, dare I say, very well to hold on to the lead of this race for as long as he has, given the pace difference between him and the 2 drivers behind. But fortune has been on his side for the majority of this race, and certainly we will see if he is able to hold on for maybe another 2 or 3 laps, depending on when they cross start finish. So not much to choose between the top 3 once again, and let's hope this battle turns out a whole lot better than the last one did. My apologies. As we are rounding turn 10 to head to the final turn, and Rayan, maybe sensing the danger that is Roger Robinson behind, is now on the offensive with Well ahead, and we will see if he looks very close, and he is in the slipstream. So we will see by the time we get to turn 1 if the order remains the same, or if we will have a change in position. Rayan taking a look there and thinking better of it, but he put himself out of position and has invited Roger Robinson to try and make a move, but Roger not able to make that move stick and has to then reconsider where he takes a fight to Ryan. He's not going to get around the outside there, as that track is quite narrow, and here we approach the 6-7 complex before the back straight, which is another opportunity to try and make a move. But the exit there, actually Ryan looked a little bit shaky on that exit, and Roger Robinson, sensing it, makes a dive around the outside and is ahead and is squeezing Ryan inside, and brakes a little bit late there, turns in and keeps the car as wide as he possibly can, but too wide, and runs off. But he has the inside line here and not much space given there by Ryan, and the two make contact, but Roger Robinson has taken P2 away from Ryan, and we will be starting the final lap, but this has given Well an advantage once again with the fighting that took place there between Ryan and Robinson, and Well is over a second clear of Robinson, and Robinson will only have this, the final lap, to try and get that move done, and we will see if he is able to do so as they round turn 1 and 2, heading now towards the section of track that has the most technicalities behind it, and he has actually closed right back up to Pipewell in that section of track, and maybe Roger Robinson thinking now or never, because if he does not get this move done out of the turn 7 onto that straight, there will not be much more time or opportunity for him to take the fight to Well, and I don't think he is close enough, so he's going to have to get quite the exit out of the next section, and there might have almost been a little bit of contact there between the two. But as we are heading now through the turn 8 and 9 section, turn 9 and 10, sorry, Roger Robinson is right there and needs a brilliant exit from this, the final corner, to make this drag race to the line, but I don't think he is close enough, and it seems as though Pipewell will hold on and take this, the top spot in our second race, ahead of Roger Robinson, who comes across the line in P2, and Iman Ryan to take P3. Kimani Eastman in all of this managed to secure P4 ahead of Julia Brown and Oswin Wilson, and we may have missed that whilst we were watching the top 3 battle it out for the lead of the race. But not a bad race here. There were some issues that need to be addressed with namely a couple of drivers, Roger Kettler, Kurt Moss, Jaden Harrison, they're having some issues out on track, and the stewards will certainly be talking things over. So certainly be on the lookout for what the findings of that may have been. But Mr. Penley in the chat, yes sir, the plumber did take P1. And yeah, not a bad race, not a bad race at all, but it did have some scars on it that need to be addressed in terms of how some of those battles played out. But overall, the CTCC once again providing us with some great racing action and giving us lots of side-by-side battles over the course of 20 minutes. Certainly, if you enjoyed any of the action that you saw here this evening, we do this every Friday, or most Fridays, and there will be lots more to come, so be on the lookout for the remainder of this series. We have one more round to go in this or Japan tour, and then I think that will be the last series of the year for the JSRA in 2023, with I think 2 rounds to go in the Porsche Cup as well, round 3 coming up tomorrow. And the Porsche Cup is on the American Tour at the moment. I think that is Road Atlanta tomorrow, and Then we have one round to go after that. But certainly still a few races to come here at the JSRA before we wrap up 2023. So as always, stay tuned to our socials as well as our other platforms, the Discord, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, to get an idea of what is still to come. And as we have concluded our races here this evening, my name is Chad Dillon, and you have been with us for the Caribbean Touring Car Challenge round 3 of the Japan Tour. And we do hope to see you back with us again when we go for round 4 as well as for Porsche Cup tomorrow. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.